This episode of Out of Spec Reviews is brought to you by Magna. More on that later. Hello and welcome back to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Welcome back to the charging station where we of course run all of our cars through a 70 mile per hour highway range test, all of the EVs. And today we have the Volvo XC40 Recharge. This will be interesting because this car is about to get a mid-cycle facelift. It's not going to affect too much about the motors and the battery. It's more of a slight styling thing, about the smallest facelift ever. But I'm really looking forward to running this car through the test and then eventually, presumably sometime soon, running the facelift car through the test to see if it's any more efficient. I'm first going to tell you a little bit about the XC40, some of the cost, the predicted range, and then I'll run you through the testing procedures. And then of course, we're going to run up to Wyoming, into Nebraska, and back down to here on this perfect day for range testing. This is the XC40 Recharge Twin Ultimate, its actual name. It's a 2022 model year, painted in thunder gray metallic, which I think looks great. Either this color or sage green would be the two I would go with. Although I'm not a red car guy in general, but I have seen these in red and they actually look pretty good. The Ultimate package gives you so much, and I think it's so worth it. First of all, it gives you pilot assist, driver assistance on the highway. It also gives you these headlight washers, which is pretty neat. It also gives you a heat pump, adaptive cruise control, power folding, let's see, what else? Mirrors, I think. Nope, power operated tailgate, keyless entry. I mean, you just got to get the Ultimate package, I think. You're already spending a lot of money for the car, but this thing, as near as makes no difference, $60,000 as tested. $60,090. That's before the federal tax credits and state credits, but it's not a cheap car. And, you know, I don't think it needs to be. I think the XC40 fits in this very interesting place, which is just a little bit more premium than the other, you know, sort of small SUV, compact crossover electric vehicles like ID4, Mustang Mach-E, etc. This is just a little bit nicer and it has a better image. I mean, when you roll up in one of these things, it's classy, but it's not pretentious. It's just right. And it's fast as well. Has 402 horsepower, 486 pound-feet of torque. We've driven XC40 Recharge on this channel, C40, Polestar 2, but we've never actually range tested the XC40. We've run the Polestar 2 in this exact test, so I'm really looking forward to seeing the difference. I believe that vehicle did about 225 miles. And this car has the same 78 kilowatt hour battery pack as the Polestar 2, and that's going to be interesting because remember in our range test, and I've seen this countless times driving Polestar, spent a lot of time in that vehicle, every time you get below, let's just say 10% state of charge, the vehicle really starts to slow down. Then when you get below 7% state of charge, Volvo ekes out every last drop of battery you know, that this thing has, and they really limit power below 7%. It's absolutely insane. And so we will probably have to pull off the highway and run the frontage road before we hit 3% state of charge, I would imagine. Otherwise, it might be too unsafe to travel at highway speeds down low. That is one of the downsides of this vehicle, is just, I think that it's not so well adapted to be a fully combustion car, or sorry, a fully electric car. You see it's built on Volvo's CMA platform, compact modular architecture, and it's a fantastic architecture. It underpins this, Polestar 2, and then some other European models that we don't necessarily get here. And it's a relatively compact car. It's not that big, but it is sort of sized right. And with this architecture, it's designed to be a combustion car, a plug-in hybrid, a mild hybrid, and so also a battery electric. And with that, it just means that these vehicles are very inefficient in our testing. And the EPA rated range for this, I believe, is 224 miles, something like that. Let me double check before I give you the wrong number. Yep, it's 223 miles at 390 kilowatt hours per 100 miles. So that's 390 watt hour per mile, or basically 2.5 miles per kilowatt hour, which is very concerning considering we just tested the Rivian R1T, a full pickup truck. Granted, it's not a full-size pickup truck, but it's a much larger vehicle than this. And that seemed to average about 2.2 miles per kilowatt hour at 70 miles an hour. And Polestar 2 in our testing has been notoriously bad for efficiency. So while the XC40 seems like a great car, it really, really is, I'm not so sure it's gonna perform perfectly in this test, but we have some things helping us. This one has the 20-inch wheels, but they're Scorpion Zero All Seasons electric focused, which is pretty cool. RFID, what? It has an RFID built in, are you kidding me? So that'll be kind of interesting to see. That's a Volvo electric OE specific tire made for this car. I've never tested one in a range test on these wheels and tires, so that could help a lot. Yeah, other than that, it's just a great looking car. We actually are considering getting one of these because it's just the right size, it's the right package. It's so good to drive. It's so fast, so fun on a back road. I'll have another driving video coming up on this, but that's where this car shines, is in daily driving, ripping up through the mountains. And in terms of road trip ability, not the best. The charging curve is not amazing. We'll have a full charging in-depth video on it as well. Through software updates, Volvo has added on-route battery preconditioning, which is great, as well as route planning built in with the Google Maps, which is really, really good. But charging up high like this right now, I plugged in at about 45% state of charge to warm up the battery pack. And yeah, it's gonna take an hour and a half to full charge. It's just that 90 to 100%, because Volvo's eking out almost every single drop in this battery. There's a very small buffer, just a couple kilowatt hours. I think it's about 74 or 75 kilowatt hour usable on a 78 kilowatt hour pack. Yeah, it just charges really slow up top. And so now I need to run through some of the testing procedures. Of course, I set the tire pressures to factory on my way up here. And then we also have to factor in our route. We are going from here in Wellington, Colorado, up to Cheyenne, east to Nebraska and back. Now, thankfully, it's not very windy today. It's actually almost still, which is amazing. If we do get a little bit of wind, hopefully we can counteract it by doing a loop style test. That's how we run every single range test, starting and ending in the same point, going from when the car completes until where it feels like it doesn't want to move anymore, and that's how we log the mileage. So you'll be joining me on that loop today as usual. What else should we talk about? I'm DC fast charging the car. I drove it pretty hard on the way over here, plugged in, again, about 45% state of charge. DC fast charging it up to 100%, so it's full. Temperature is currently 57 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but it will warm up in the next hour and a half before we leave. So let's just let this thing charge up. As usual, I'll be doing a live stream on our sister channel, Out of Spec Motoring, throughout the test. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how far this car goes. I truly love this car, even though it's a bit compromised from the EV perspective in terms of efficiency and charging, just in my experience with it. Either way, let's jump in. Not a bad car with great driver assistance to do this test in. Here we go. We are just charging up at 73% state of charge, doing 64 kilowatts. And yeah, it's gonna take a while to top charge. So we'll be very much acquainted here at the Come and Go fueling station. You can see this vehicle is on software 1.1.0. I know the Volvo guys would ask. This is the latest software update. The vehicle is not asking for any more. So I did make sure we were fully up to date before performing this test. You can see here it's going to take forever to top charge. We're at 7 kilowatts at 94%. A couple things, by the way. This is a fresh vehicle. I don't know if I can pull it up right here. Here we go. 783 miles on the odometer, so that's pretty good. Glad we got a fresh one. Volvo literally sent it to Denver. They put some miles on it, break-in miles, and then brought it right to us. So that's pretty good. EVs don't need break-in miles, of course. We have the Range Assistant app. There's also the Range Optimizer, which limits climate control functions to what? Does it let you still choose temperature if you put Range Optimizer on? It does appear that it does. So we will run Range Optimizer because we always run the most eco-friendly climate control, assuming we still have temperature control. And if I find for some reason it doesn't do temperature control, I'll turn it off. But that's good. We'll definitely kick that on. What else do I have here to show you? I have some charging stuff set to 100%. And it's just gonna take a long time. We are at 99%. It's anywhere between 4 and 6 kilowatts is the power we're seeing. I have climate control off to help it charge a little bit faster. Hopefully, sometimes it pulls it from the charger, sometimes it doesn't. I'm not sure, but we're not gonna risk it. Anyway, it's 2:01 p.m. right now. The car thinks it's gonna take 30 minutes to full charge. I don't think it's gonna do that. I think what we'll see is it complete here relatively soon, within the next 10 or 15 minutes. and then we'll head out and go on the 70-mile-an-hour test. This episode is proudly brought to you by Magna. Magna is a mobility technology company that is super unique because they touch every aspect of almost every car in the market, especially a lot of electric vehicles, and they even can produce vehicles from the ground up. Now, you may remember I shot a series just recently testing some of their new electric vehicle powertrains, so stay tuned for a lot of Magna content to come. We're going to be going in depth with some really interesting topics with these guys, and Out of Spec wants to thank Magna for sponsoring this review and tons of other videos to come right here on Out of Spec. We look forward to working with Magna to define and find out what the future of mobility looks like. And charging has just completed. Climate control is off, so we're not burning anything. Let's unplug here. You got to hit this little button because it's a Euro EV. Pull this out. We'll throw this back. We've added, let's take a look at the specs, 46 kilowatt hours. Took an hour and 43 minutes. Welcome to top charging of Volvo. Really good to about 80-85%. Anything above that, DC charging, not so good. Anyway, let's head out on the test. So turn off range optimizer, no. We're gonna hit cancel. We're actually gonna go here to auto on 168 degrees, windows up, brake on, into drive. Vehicle not parked, well, duh. Click to reset TM, click again to confirm. Everything is reset. We have 733 miles on the odometer, just in case. The car thinks we're only gonna do 190 miles, but I've been ripping it, so let's see. I can't imagine it does more than Polestar 2, but that had the performance wheels and tires. I believe 20 inch as well, but time will tell. Off we go then. On to our typical loop. Little bit of wind, actually not much. I ran the Kia EV6 yesterday. I'm not sure when these will get posted in order or not, but yesterday I ran the Kia EV6 in the same loop, and we had a lot more wind than we do today. The car thinks it's about 70 degrees at the time of the start of the test, but I think mostly that's just because it was just baking in the sun. So let's head out onto the highway. The Volvo has no driving modes. It's just basically the way it is. The only setting you have for driving, there's two of them. There's off-road mode and one pedal drive. It also uses a brake-by-wire situation. Just closing the sunroof here. Forgot that was open. Well, that just popped. It uses a brake-by-wire, so when you touch the brake pedal, it will blend friction and service brakes. It's actually a really great brake pedal, one of the best brake-by-wire systems I've used, and tuned very sporty. This car is way sportier than it has to be. It's fast, it's fun, and we have quite a few people watching us live for just starting out a range test. Pretty pleased, enjoying having their company as always. And I have no idea what to expect here in the Volvo, but pretty good day for a range test, have to say. What we'll do is we'll merge up onto the highway as usual. Right when we hit the end of the on-ramp, we'll lock it in at 70 miles an hour. However, I've already confirmed that 70 miles an hour indicated is actually 72 miles an hour GPS. So we have to run between 68 and 69 miles per hour to match, the speed we should be driving. And so what we're going to do is actually run 69 miles an hour out to Nebraska and then turn around and run 68 on the way back, because 70 seems to be right in the middle of them. And it's just got such solid performance, being very gentle on the acceleration. You don't want to pull that much current through, that way there's not as much heat loss. But there we are, pretty much right at 68 miles an hour. I'm going to kick on Pilot Assist. This one has the new update with the better lane centering in Pilot Assist, and just absolutely loving this on the highway. It's a great system, very comfortable car, pretty quiet as well. And I'll let you know at major milestones throughout the drive what happened. We are almost to the Wyoming border. We have 90% state of charge, and we've traveled 19.4 miles. And with the range optimizer on and everything, it's predicting another 170 miles. So will we see 200 out of this test? I think the answer is yes, but it's up to the car. It's not up to me, of course. We are gaining a little bit of elevation on the first bit of the drive. We always get hammered initially, but then we get a really good last few miles on the way back in. So that's just part of the loop. That's why we do a loop. And it's too early to tell, but even now, look, we're at 20 miles at 90%, which means, yeah, I think we'll see 200 miles easily, considering this is where we're getting hammered the hardest. Time will tell, though. Enjoying the Volvo though. Great cabin to be in. Very nice build quality. Just feels like such a solid product. I know a lot of people are going to think it's expensive, but it's really worth the money. We are at 75% state of charge. We've traveled 55 miles so far. We have open road, very little wind, a little bit of side wind, which does suck because we get hammered both ways with it, but it's not very fast. Under 5 miles an hour it appears. We're getting about 38 kilowatt hour per 100 miles, or 380 watt hour per mile. The car's predicting another 150 miles, and yeah, Volvos always show 10-mile increments, usually even in their combustion cars for fuel range, until you get below, I want to say 25 miles or 10 miles, I forget, and then it goes to single digit counting down. But loving the Volvo. We're good. We're on track for 200 miles in a bit. That's sort of as expected. The Polestar 2 again did 225, and that should be a little bit slipperier than this car. So yeah, we're expecting everything on track right now. It's all good, all as expected, no surprises. And welcome to Nebraska, the good life. Always go by this sign on our typical loop. By the way, just as a reminder, we are running 69 miles an hour on the way out, and then we're going to run 68 on the way back, just because the speedometer is like right in between them, actually, according to our GPS stuff. So we're just going to split the difference on the drive. And yeah, 70 miles traveled, 140 miles gone. 140 miles predicted remaining. We've traveled 71.8. We need to start thinking about our turnaround spot. Perhaps when we get into that mid 50% range, between 55 and 57%, that's when we'll turn around. We are about to take exit 20, and then we're going to loop back on the highway. We are at 56% state of charge, and we've traveled 91 miles. I always turn around a little bit before 50% because if we turned around a little bit after, then we likely wouldn't make it back, depending on conditions. And so, yeah, always leave a little bit of buffer on the way back. We can always loop closer to the charger, but my main concern here is just this car, really slowing down at low states of charge. So I want to be close to the highway exit by the time we hit somewhere around that 7 to 10% range, and then we have flexibility as to what to do. If it feels safe to drive on the highway, we can continue, but I know this one has like the most aggressive throttle limiting strategy that I've ever experienced in an EV, just based off of my Polestar 2 tests. So gentle accelerations. We're going to loop back onto the highway. It says 63 miles to Cheyenne, and then south to Fort Collins after that, about another 30 miles. And we're going to run 68 miles per hour instead of 69 on the way back, just to offset that speedometer thing. But just nice, perfect day for some cruising. Probably going to get bunched up with these trucks, unfortunately, but that we'll try not to have it get in our way too much. Getting a little bit chillier out, 62 degrees over here, but still well within, perfect temperatures for this kind of stuff. Very pleased here. And just accelerating back onto the highway as gently as possible, even though this one was an uphill. Down to 55%, 110 miles predicted remaining. We're still tracking for about 200 miles according to the car, but now the real data starts. Oh, I am going way too fast. Let's lock it back in at 68. There we go. 68, the top number. And yeah, still predicting about 200 miles here on this charge, and we'll see what actually it comes in with. We are at 50% state of charge, having a beautiful drive here. Traveled 103 miles, and the car is still predicting 100 to go. Absolutely beautiful conditions still, and we are on the return, heading back to Fort Collins. We are at 24% state of charge now instead of 25. We're just looping back onto I-25. I've programmed in the gas station, not the charge point charger, just in case the car feels like it wanted to precondition. I don't want it to warm up and burn extra juice to precondition. So I plugged in not the charge point station, but the fueling station right next to it. We're just going to accelerate back up to 68 miles an hour. Let's lock it in, boom. And now we'll head down I-25 back to Wellington. It's expecting a 10% arrival, which all sounds perfect. We have here our first low battery indication at 30 miles of range. It goes yellow, and you can see we actually have the range prediction here on the screen for the first time. Before it just showed percent, and I was using this menu right here, this range assistant, to see how much range we would have. But now at 30 miles, it pops up in the screen. We are reaching our turnaround point. We've actually gone past where we started because we had a little bit extra. We are now at 10% state of charge. And of course, we're going to run it all the way down to 0. You can see that orange little bar in the display here. That means we already have a pretty big power cut. And I told you that was going to happen in this car, and as expected, it's already cutting our power early. I think this is going to be good because by the time we get back up to that charger location, we'll be at 7%. And if I remember correctly from my previous test, at about 7% is when this car really falls on its face in terms of acceleration. Not that you should ever plan to drive an electric car hard at low states of charge, but you know, sometimes you just need a little bit more juice to at least maintain highway speeds. And so what we're going to do is we'll probably get off at that exit and then run the frontage road up and down, you know, just to keep the speeds between, actually we were doing close to 70 miles an hour yesterday doing it, so hopefully we'll still maintain 70 miles an hour. But if for whatever reason the car doesn't want to, it's not like it would be on a dangerous highway where everyone's doing 85, 90 miles an hour. Welcome to turtle mode here at 9% state of charge. It's one of the earliest cars to throttle power, like I mentioned. And well, after 193 miles of driving, we are in reduced power due to low battery charge. And that's because the power level hit that last tick right there. So now we're down to less than 25% power output at 9%. That's just crazy to me. And just up ahead is the exit from where we started. We'll actually be taking it, but it's not the end of the 70 mile an hour speeds. We still have 8%, but you can see our power limit's pretty crazy. We've traveled about 196 miles or so just on the highway. But what we're gonna do is actually run up the frontage road on the other side of this divide here, still at highway speeds, but just because of this power limit, it'll be a little bit safer, and we can turn around at any point, which is always nice, you know, when we compare it to the highway. So let's regen off here. Let's go on the frontage road and keep going highway speeds. And here we are just cruising along at 70 miles an hour. Again, 68 indicated is 70. We'll just keep doing this until we run out of juice. Now, normally I recommend against trying to go wide open throttle at very low states of charge and then maybe spiking some regen back in just to wake the pack up a little bit. But we are down to 4% state of charge. I'm floored, and we can't go above 50, 55 miles an hour right now. Take a look. We are cruising along here at about 50 miles an hour. That's my foot welded to the floor. It's slowly increasing, but not by much. And that is just not great for it. So I'm going to try and back off a little bit. We're definitely off of 70 miles an hour. We did about 70 for 200 miles straight. We have another 5 miles to get to the charger. The car thinks we'll get there at 2%. We can always loop around a little bit more to make sure we get there completely dead. But only time will tell what the results will be. But definitely cross the 200 mile mark. There we go. We are now at 1% state of charge, and hopefully we can make it across the highway to get back to the charging station, because this thing's pretty limited on acceleration. Like, that is just pinned right there, and we are just barely accelerating. It's a good thing we're not holding up anyone behind us. The car still claims 4 miles remaining, and so I think what we'll do is we'll get over towards the charger and we'll loop around a little bit on this side. And we are at 0% state of charge, 2 miles projected, but honestly, it's like so unsafe to drive on the streets. We have no acceleration that, yeah, I'm just going to pull it in the charging station. It's not like there's much left in it, and it's not like we're near a major milestone. It'll do 210 miles on a charge, and so definitely, like, that's full throttle, and it's just cutting us back big time. It's right at the edge of running out, this thing. So let's go bring it back to the charge point station and hope it doesn't run out on the way over there. And pulling into the come and go fueling lot, let's just keep the speed up, the momentum high. No one pull out in front of us, because that's full throttle. We got to get this thing over to the charging station. The live stream guys are sideways. There we go. Oh yes, and we have made it. We have made it. Perfect. And here are the results, 0%. It does indicate 1 mile remaining, but honestly, like I mentioned, it's pretty much completely dead. It has no more acceleration. I'm not sure if it just shows 1 mile. It probably goes down to 0 at some point, but I'm not sure it's worth going much farther, especially with a car that's this slow, and that indicates to me that it's pretty much drained. So what we should do is we should plug it in immediately, because yeah, of course, it's not good to leave a battery with 0% state of charge like that. So let's plug it in and we'll do it. So let's tap the charge point card, authorizing. What do you think we'll get on plug-in? Probably not that much, but we will see. Pull this thing over. Give me 1 second. This is a two-hander. In we go with the handle in the back of the XC40, and we are plugged in and charging here momentarily. That's what I call a successful highway range test. And it says reconnect. There's an error. I'll show the live stream guys. Oh boy. Let's do it. And we are charging. Pretty sweet. Not very fast, but it's ramping up slowly. The Volvo always ramps up slowly. My guess is we'll get, I don't know, 50 kilowatts, something like that. And there you have it, 210.4 miles in the 70 mile per hour highway range test, just slightly under the Polestar 2, which is to be expected, I think, just because this is the boxier one, but not by much. Same car, same behavior at low states of charge, 364 watt hour per mile, or in Volvo speak, 36.4 kilowatt hour per 100 miles. And I'd say it's actually not that bad. That's, you know, it's not class leading in terms of range, but in terms of a daily driver that is very premium, that's very fast, very fun to drive, and that you can certainly take it out on a trip from time to time, perfectly fine EV in my eyes, and very stylish. This car is the right image. Anyway, plenty more to come with this car, charging test, driving stuff. I don't know what will come up before what, but appreciate you all watching as always, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.